Hello there, and I believe that you're okay and doing just super fine. And it's another time that we get to share and talk about the things in life that affect us here and there. And if you're guilty of yelling, hands up, please. Hands up. I know you are not. Just kidding. Hello there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Lanca, and here we talk about life issues, life development, and talking about things that can help us navigate through this life because there are difficulties here and there, but with knowledge, then we can be able to work it out. I'm going to start with a quote. L.R. Nost puts it so clearly, quote unquote, he says, yelling silences your message. Learn to speak quietly so that your children can hear your words and not your voice. Raising your voice is pre-wired in the limbic system and amygdala of the brain as part of the survival instinct. So it is here with us, but that does not give us a right to misuse it. Because honestly speaking, when was that one time that you really shouted and things went all right? I'm waiting for you to let me know when that was. I don't think it's appropriate. So there is one thing that is very clear. Then we really need to have it, but we don't have to use it. Why do people really shout at each other, or why does a person really feel like they want to to shout to a person? At times it is because they are trying to assert dominance. They want to dominate the situation. They want to look like they are in control, and maybe it happens that they raise their voice so that they can alert you, or they can make you get the point that they are trying to put across, but it's not the very good thing that one is supposed to do. Another thing is that people shout because they want to force you into submission of what they are saying. This mostly happens when a boss maybe is speaking to a worker, and you really want to force them to do exactly what you have said, and they can't help but shout. We are not giving any room for shouting. I'm just giving you reasons why people shout. This is inappropriate because, one, it really creates stress and tension. I know maybe you've been in a situation where you're communicating to someone, and then just out of nowhere they are shouting and screaming and you can't help. It just happens that you can't even control yourself because you're really scared, you're really shocked because it is happening. And most of the time, yelling is not even friendly. And when you do it to a child, it can be traumatizing most of the time because they really get scared. And when you're the adult or the grown-up person who is communicating to a child in a way that is not appropriate, then it makes them feel and create the tension and the stress around the situation that you're communicating to. Another thing, it is a very disrespectful and mean thing to do to a person that you love. Just imagine you're communicating to your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend. This is a person that you really love and means a lot to you, but then you're yelling and you're raising your voice and you're shouting, and you can't even seem to control yourself or hold back for a second and see what is happening. Then they can't communicate. It is shaming, it is disrespectful. So the reason why we are saying that it is inappropriate is because it is so mean. I mean, there is nothing good about it. So the only way out of this is to make sure that we learn how to communicate properly so that we tame and control the yelling or absolutely stop it. Yelling or raising your voice is a reflection of emotional instability. Honestly, if you look back, most of the time when people are shouting, they are probably angry and overboard. That's why they are shouting. So it reflects a person who is not able to really hold themselves or control themselves despite the situation or the thing that is currently happening or whatever is going on in their mind. Because most of the time, those people who are usually raising their voice are angry, or they are going through pressure, or there is something that is bothering them, and it usually comes out in a way of shouting. So most of the time it is something at the back of your head that is working, and you project it by raising your voice so that you make the other person quickly understand what you're trying to say, other than communicating properly. Attention, as I say, why this is inappropriate. This is from experience. Being a mother of three, I can tell you for free. If you raise your voice, you're passing it as a learned behavior to your children. And this is one of the major reasons that made me look at myself and realize I need to work on this ASAP. Like now, today, starting this moment. Because I realized that my girl is 8 years and she would shout. She would just shout. And I realized that she was learning. She was seeing how I communicate as a person. And she's able to just copy and paste on the brother and the small sister. So if you're doing it, the reason why I'm saying that it is inappropriate is because you're passing it to your children as a behavior of communicating. And then you will have a generation of people who never know how to communicate properly. They are ever shouting here and there, and it's chaotic, and it's not good at all. So we are saying that we have to work out on this, because most people find themselves just shouting and shouting. Maybe it is a learned behavior, maybe it is something you have taught yourself, but whichever or whatever thing that has happened, then we have to make sure that we have to work Another on it. Reason why raising your voice is inappropriate is because it will delay or disorient or just happen to make sure that work is not going on properly, because productivity will be lowered by the person who is raising their voice, and to the person that they are raising their voice. Especially if you look at the scientific fact that says that there are chemicals that are produced in the body if you're angry to that extent and you're yelling out. There are chemicals like cortisol. It takes around 20 minutes for cortisol. It's a chemical that is produced in those situations, and it will take like 20 minutes for you to be sober again. Now look, we have already 20 minutes that we have wasted on the time that we were trying to solve. So how are we going to work around this? Because we are looking at it and we are finding that it's not a good thing, it's not anything appropriate to do. For me, one thing is that I took lessons from a lady called Amanda, who writes, who is on YouTube on the same. She talks about a lot of things, and I found them really helpful, because one, I have put a wristband. You can really put a wristband around your hand so that it reminds you that you're not yelling, you're just calm. You're just calm and you talk calmly. And anytime you see that band, it will always remind you that you're supposed to be calm and collected and just communicating appropriately. Another thing that is really helpful is making sure that you catch yourself. You make it a conscious move such that you realize when you're communicating, it is not something that is supposed to happen. You're really conscious about it. Like for me now, it's something that I'm really conscious about. And after healing, it doesn't come in one day and you stop yelling and you're all calm and good. And no, it is work in progress. You keep working around it. So catching yourself and making sure that you're conscious about it then helps you, because you're working on it. You're remembering when you're communicating to someone, it is at the back of your head, and you're remembering that I should be calm. And I also remember that my children are not as bad. I mean, they're just children. They will do children 24/7. So I need to communicate to them appropriately so that they can understand and stop whatever they are doing in an appropriate manner, so that they can also learn and not adapt it as a way of communicating. Another thing is take time to relax. Take time to relax. Take time to relax, because most of the time you're agitated because you're tired, or there's something that is going on in your head, and you're not sober enough to really handle a lot of things. So it is important to take time and relax so that you can be able to handle all other things that are waiting. Learn to communicate properly. Learn to communicate properly. You know, most of the time how we react is really directly related to how we feel. But again, that is not an excuse that somebody should be found there shouting and yelling and raising their voice. There is a proper method of communicating, and when you learn it, then it can help you to really be composed and communicate properly without raising your voice or yelling to anyone, be it also be intentional about lowering your voice. There's just nothing good or appropriate about raising a voice to a person you're communicating to. We've mentioned a few things here and there that are not good and why it is inappropriate to raise your voice. So purposefully be intentional. Remember that it is not an appropriate thing to do. So be intentional so that whatever you're saying, a person can be able to focus on your words and not your voice, because the voice sometimes is so rough and it comes out from an angry perspective, so somebody will not even clearly understand what you're saying. And I've not seen a person who is yelling that has been able to communicate properly. That one I don't know, unless you have one and you wanna comment down below and tell me there is a person who really communicates by yelling and it works, then maybe that person should be given an award. But I haven't seen a person who really shouts and yells and screams and is able to communicate properly. So we are being intentional about lowering our voice. And we've said you will watch on your mood, especially for the women. Sometimes there is a hormonal imbalance that comes in because of the in the course of the month here and there. But that is not a reason why you should yell for whatever. You should always be a person who is really cool, composed, and able to communicate properly without raising your voice, without yelling. I would really appreciate and want to know, what did you find that was most helpful to you, and where have you been guilty? Where